Alrighty, so we're back, everyone. Episode 2. Who would have thought we would have got this far? We are back with Storia Stories. It's 2026 now as well. Our episode 1 was 2025. So happy New Year, everyone. We're back, the two of us, James and Jordan. And this episode, we're going to get straight into it. We're going to talk about from spreadsheets to real systems, a practical journey for companies that want to merge from their using of spreadsheets to rely on everything through to an actual customized app or system that's going to work for their needs within their company. So without further ado, James, I've got question 1 lined up, which is companies, generally speaking, not your big ones, but especially your small ones, your startups, they start using spreadsheets in the beginning. And why is that? What works well? What's the pull for spreadsheets?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. One thing to say is like spreadsheets are not bad. Like they're not. Definitely don't look at them as an enemy of progressive technology. If anything, it's the total opposite. But spreadsheets give a place to start. They provide a structure. Table formats make things easy to identify, to visualize, because it's all just columns and rows. So having having headers and just going, yep, I'm filling it out for this row. This is an entry. I'm filling out all of these different columns. It's easy to understand. You can look at a table and go, I totally get what that is. And yeah, it's just a great way for businesses to start out before they add in a whole bunch of automation. It's easy, and for the most part, it's cheap too. It is cheap. So if you have like your Microsoft subscription, you get Excel for free. And then if you have your Google has Google Sheets that comes in free, as well as there's Open Office, where you get a free version, sort of version of their version of Excel. It's a cheap way to start, a cheap and easy way to start managing your business and managing your data.
Yeah, nice. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but like spreadsheets, the way you put your data together within that spreadsheets is similar to how databases in an actual system or an app might work. So they're kind of already, they're doing like a really raw version of the system, but obviously the system that comes later can use many different ways, and obviously onwards to automation and all the rest of it. So it makes sense, right? The spreadsheets, that it's like a database, and how they're collating and handling and using that data.
Yeah, it is, and that's where you transition. And and we'll probably get into it a little bit later, but like when you're starting that your development journey as a business, and you're going, okay, I'm ready to take my processes and my systems to the next level. Then as you said, you have that structure. You've already started with that. You can hand that over to a developer, and they go, "Oh, okay, yeah, I understand. I can translate this directly into a database," because databases are just a series of spreadsheets. Really, they're just tables, exactly the same format, rows and columns. And it makes that in that journey from spreadsheet world into software world really, really simple. It's actually, in many cases, harder to take something you've done on a spreadsheet and put it into a pre-made product, unless you have a really good understanding of how that product works. Custom works a lot better in that realm because the developer already has a really good understanding of what your current data is like, and then they can manipulate and mold that into something that works better.
Yeah, nice. And so I guess this transitions well then into what was going to be question number 2, which is, what is the clearest signals that a business has outgrown their spreadsheets, and it's maybe time to start considering a real custom system or app.
Yeah. There are a few particular ones. The biggest one that I have when dealing with customers and dealing with businesses that have relied on spreadsheets for a really long time, there's always a fear around the spreadsheet breaking, or that they've had an incident. They're like, oh, so and so saved a copy of it, and now all of the formulas are broken, right? For those who are experienced in spreadsheet formulas or algorithms and that, so they made a copy of it. It's all broken, and now we've had to revert back to a previous version in order to get it to work again. We lost a heap of data. So there's that fear around that, which kind of leads into there being multiple versions of the same spreadsheet. You see that, I've seen that a number of times. Like you'll have version 1 and then version 1.2, version 1.3, 1.4, so on, and version 2 and then version 3 and then version 4. And you just have dozens of these different versions of this spreadsheet. Or you'll have that, sometimes you'll have, James's version, and then Jordan's version, and then, Chris's version and Bob's version. Then every single person has their own version of this spreadsheet that's major for them. Like it's how they run their department, run their desk, whatever. But there's just no synergy between the data that's going into these spreadsheets and how they pass it on to other people. So like you'll find Bob will put it in his way, and then he'll pass the data over to Kevin, and then Kevin will manipulate that into his spreadsheet, and then he'll pass that on to someone else, and then they'll manipulate it in their way. So there's just this constant double handling of data that could be automated really, really easily.
Sounds like a single source of truth.
Absolutely.
Type thing.
If you don't have a single source of truth, if there's nowhere that you can go, I trust that the data in this area, in this spreadsheet, is 100% correct and going to provide me with the information that I require, then you have a problem. Because you can't have little bits and pieces across multiple people, because they're all in different departments. There's the manufacturing spreadsheet, then there's the sales spreadsheet, there's the shipping spreadsheet and all of that. So you have all of these different areas that all have their own way of managing stuff, and none of it's connecting and communicating together. And it makes it really hard for the team to understand what the big picture is. From an individual perspective, they might go, "This is great. I'm fine with it. I don't have any problems." But as soon as you start going up in the hierarchy and you're wanting management to go, "Oh, what's the big picture of what's going on here?" They're going, "I have no way to correlate all of this data into one spot, so it makes sense." Right. So it is yes, finding that one spot. If you don't have a source of truth or one point source of truth for your business, then that is a problem for people in higher levels of the organization.
Yeah, nice. I was smiling before when you were talking about copies of copies, and like, because previous workplaces that I've been in, it's like there's a master spreadsheet, and then there's a copy spreadsheet, and then there's a copy, and I also reckon there'd be people watching this that are probably smiling at the same time, being like, "Yep, that's me," or "That's my company." And then like another thing I thought, like, potentially the reason why there's masters and copies of copies and other people's copies is because read-write access and sort of access control can be a bit of a tricky thing with spreadsheets, right? As opposed to custom apps where that can be really fine-tuned.
Yeah. I mean, yes, absolutely. You can code in security and privileges into an application. That's fine. You can even link it up to like your organization services, so like Microsoft or Google or something like that. So it makes it really easy to manage those controls. But as soon as you have and when you said master, I couldn't help but smile. Like there is if you have a spreadsheet anywhere in your documentation that says master in the name, you need custom software. Like just stop what you're doing, go, okay, I need help, because if someone's making a copy of a master spreadsheet and then making changes to it and pushing it, that's a problem. That is a huge problem, because there's no consistency, no truth source of truth. But yeah, it really is. It comes down to you being able to go into your data and knowing exactly what's happening in your business. And if you
Yeah.
can't, then you're already way behind. You're already falling behind, like absolute crazy.
Yeah. And when we say signals as well, something that I've just thought about, which is somewhat related, but if you do have your masters and your copies, or you've got multiple different spreadsheets for different things in different areas, maybe a good metric within that signal is how long are you spending trying to consolidate or trying to fix a problem, or to bring the copies of copies together to the master. Would that be a fair thing to say, that would be a pretty strong metric to consider when deciding whether or not it's time to transition away from spreadsheets?
Yes, I would definitely say so, and it's more that metric will decide how much do you save moving over to a system. Like, so let's say you have an admin on your team who's basically the majority of their time is to manage a spreadsheet, or to manage series of spreadsheets and pull them all together. Sometimes you might call them a business analyst or a financial analyst or something like that. And typically an analyst or administrator, and their role is to just figure out what this all means and pull it together so that management has an idea of what's going on in their business. That is a telltale sign that you need to start moving on, looking at custom systems, and the value that you're going to get from that is directly correlated to how much so you get a lot more, but immediate return on investment is correlated to how long that person spends on managing that data, right? So now you're making their job easier, right? So you've reduced that capacity of the job, and you can move them into other things in other places of your business that requires their attention, instead of having to manage spreadsheets.
And also, like, if you're a company that has ambitions like most companies do, which is to scale up, is that time spent also going to increase? Is there going to be more spreadsheets? So it's not necessarily about the cost today, but is that cost going to increase as well?
Yes. And the simple answer to that is yes, 100%. The longer that you use spreadsheet, like, you're relying on files and data across your individual computer and then synchronizing that with everyone else's individual computers. Eventually, you're going to get that Excel spreadsheet to a point where it's not going to be able to open anymore, right? So the amount of data that it takes, there is a limit. There's a threshold to how much that it can safely open. I know some people will argue, well, no, if I scroll to the bottom of my Excel spreadsheet, I can see, there's 900,999,999 rows that I can use before this thing is going to get filled up. But that's not how it works. It's how much data you put into it that directly correlates to its usage. So you'll find that after you put in maybe 1,000 rows, the Excel spreadsheet starts to load a little slower. It's starting to open a little slower for a few people. You put in 2,000 to 5,000. Now it takes, you're waiting 60 seconds before it actually fully opens and that you can use it. That is time wasted. So every 60 seconds, someone's having to do that every single day. And that's across multiple people, so that is time wasted, and that goes up exponentially. It's not linear. As you put more data in, you can predict how slow it's going to be. It is going to go up exponentially based on the data that's in there, and you shove in more and more and more until eventually, it takes like 10 to 15 minutes for the thing to load, and a lot of people just get used to it. They get used to it, and they just go, yeah, 15 minutes is fine. I'll click the button and I'll go and get a cup of tea. Right, and they go, okay, well, that's fine. But now everything, so you have 4 people doing that. That's an hour lost. That's an hour of manpower lost. Right, so that there comes a point where absolutely you've got to look at what is the cost of having a spreadsheet. How much time do we lose by having these giant repositories of data that it takes ages to load, and everyone's going out and having a cup of tea every time they're trying to load up the spreadsheet.
Yeah, 100%. So there's people watching this, directors or, you know, business development people within companies that are probably smiling and nodding.
Yeah.
So we've identified the signals that maybe it's time.
Yeah.
But I reckon the fear of the unknown, or, you know, what is the first step or steps that we take to start the transition
Okay. Well,
from the
obviously,
spreadsheets to the customer?
Yeah. Obviously, the first step is identifying that there's a problem. You know, it's kind of like, you know, whenever you're having to deal with any kind of situation, you need to accept that there is a problem, because you can find that different tiers of your organization will disagree. So it's, you know, it typically starts at the top, and they'll go, hey, I'm having a real issue here with correlating our data to find out what's happening in our business. And they'll go down the track and they'll go, yeah, actually, it is a bit hard. They'll go to the, you know, they're under their management, the middle level, and they'll go, yeah, it is a bit hard, but we kind of deal with it. And then they'll go to the people on the next level, and they'll say, it's not really a problem for me. And then they'll go to the people at the very bottom, and they just go, it's irrelevant. Like, you know, I get my 15 minutes or my half an hour to whenever I open up the spreadsheet to go and have a coffee in that. It's not an issue. So you've got to make sure that across your organization that everyone agrees, hey, this isn't right. This isn't how it should be running. We have a problem here. And once you've accepted that problem, you go, okay, cool. So before you even go and talk to a developer, you decide internally which process, what part of our business is suffering the most because of these spreadsheets. You pick one area. You start off with one thing. You go, cool, okay, we're going to automate that in some way. And it may not be jumping straight into custom development immediately. You might be talking to a developer and going, hey, we want to be able to extract data from these spreadsheets and put them into some sort of format that makes sense for us. We want to automate that process. So keep it simple. You go ahead and you do that with them. So you start with one. Once you've had success with that one area, then you go, cool, what's another area? And then you keep building it out. And eventually you will find that simple integration that you started off with will become a whole business management service. You'll find that you'll be able to manage everything from this one spot, and it will work seamlessly. You'll have all of that data there, everything that you need. So that's where I would start. First of all, internally, within your business, identify and make sure that everyone agrees that there's a problem. Next step, pick one problem. Pick your most annoying and frustrating problem and start to work with a developer to come up with a solution for that, and let it evolve naturally. As your business evolves and grows, the service and the solution will evolve and grow too.
Nice. When you say go and talk to a developer, besides Storia, which we would be biased towards,
yes,
you know, where are they looking for developers? Like, are they going on Google? Where would you recommend? Like, say someone in the company has charge of this, they're a business development, or maybe it's one of the directors or something. They go, I'm going to take charge of this. Where are they going to find a suitable developer or developers? Are they reaching out to multiple? What would your recommendation be?
Yeah, so there's a lot of nuance to finding the right person, because there are so many successful development agencies out there and developers, but they all focus on, you know, there's a lot of focus in their areas. So you want to make sure that you're finding someone who can work with you. So we're very, like, for us, it's business software and product development is very much our focus. But so, you know, to find someone like us, we're very much reliant on word of mouth. So we know people and they come to us through that. typically one of the best places to start would be your IT company, your IT department. Go and have a chat with them. Go, hey, we need a resource in order to achieve this particular goal. And either they might know someone or they have someone that they're partnered with. That's where I would start to have that discussion, and then meet with them and talk it through. Probably what I find one of the worst places to go is to look at Google, because Google will just give you the guys who have paid a lot of money in order to rank themselves really high, and you're not going to get the quality. You'll find that the guy, I found some of the best developers are actually ranked really low on Google because they don't focus on that. They just focus on quality of work. So it's really doing due diligence and talking to them and making sure they understand. You need to spend time and educate them about how your business works, because if you want the best and greatest success, they need to basically become a part of your business and understand how it all comes together. So word of mouth, like going and finding people who know developers, is probably the first step. Find LinkedIn. LinkedIn is very helpful as well, because there's so many people spruiking themselves on there, and it's the guys who spend their time promoting their work and talking about their work through their content, are actually really great. They're not spending money on advertising. They're just spending their money talking about their quality. And you'll find them here. Like in Perth, we have some really great development agencies. And like you can see that in how they conduct themselves on social media in comparison to how they conduct themselves on Google.
Yeah. Nice. I've had a thought about maybe why they would, or actually, let's just go on a tangent.
Sure.
So we've identified the signals, we're considering taking the first steps. Why would a company not take those first steps? What would be reasons that they just remain on the spreadsheets, they deal with the 15-minute open times and all the other issues that it creates?
Well, first of all, there's a fear. There's a fear-based reaction to change. And this can come from any level. Once you go, hey, we're wanting to change how our business works, not in a small way, maybe in a large way, then you typically get a lot of pushback, because the change management process for most businesses does not come without friction of some sort. Someone along the way is going to feel the pinch of this development in your business. So you need to take the time. It's why I said earlier, start really small, so that impact is less. You pick one area and just identify that and attack that first, because then that minimizes the impact. Once you start to see that success, then the process becomes easier to bring everyone else on board. You started off in the manufacturing department, down in the warehouse, everything's, in the factory, everything's looking really great now, and the other departments are going, hey, this actually isn't a bad idea. You forked out the money for it and it's become a success. I want to join in. I want to have some of that success too. So you got to work around the fear. There's also the money aspect, of course. With any business, taking this step, there's a cost associated with it. Going, okay, well, that cost is too much for me, or it's really crazy at the moment. Like we can't afford to be spending that kind of money on something that we're not 100% sure is going to work, or whatever. There's that that resistance to it. Again, fear. It is a fear-based reaction. So my response to that is, again, start small. Just pick one teeny tiny thing in your business, attack that, fix it, and see what the outcomes are. Once you do that and you go, hey, there's actually some real flow here and it works, you tack on to the next thing, and then eventually you lead up into the full solution one day. So yeah, those are I would say probably the two biggest ones why people don't move away. It's fear around change, fear around spending money. It's also a comfortable thing too.
Yep.
people just get comfortable in their ways, and they're like, you know what, we don't want to change. And you'll find it might be someone in the lower echelons of the business, who are going, hey, this kind of sucks, and I don't particularly like it. You'll find it a lot with new starts, with like new employees who come on and they're like, man, this is really really annoying and really frustrating. But then the upper management like, no, look, hey, it's fine. It works. Our business works. It flows. We make money. We don't want to change it because they're comfortable. They're comfortable with it, and they don't want to have to go through that whole process. So it is about just going, okay, cool, you're comfortable in that. That's fine. But what if we make these changes and now you could be earning more money, or we could be doing more stuff. We could be pushing out more product. We could be pushing out more services. What if we could do that, and this solution, it allows us to do that, making those changes allows us to do that. That's how you talk about it. You go, what are the benefits? What are the features of implementing something like this, and how is that going to, and how is that going to reflect in our business in the next 3, 6, 12 months, whatever, and identify that actually this could be a real benefit to us, and we could be saving a lot of time. So approach it from that angle. Look at the benefits. It's like it's like selling yourself. You're in a job interview or trying to get a raise. It works exactly the same way. And if you're that person that brings that solution in, typically cheered amongst your peers for being a savior of sorts, and going, hey, this business, and we don't have to deal with a 15-minute opening spreadsheet anymore because of you. And it really, I have actually seen people get quite rewarded for being the one to champion the implementing better solutions in their business.
Except for their colleagues now missing out on that break that they enjoyed getting.
Except for the colleagues missing out on that break. Believe me, they'll get their break one way or another. They don't. They just kind of lose the excuse for it, and they'll find it somewhere else. I promise you. They'll find it.
So I like it. So fear of unknown. Like for sure, I can see that. I have heard or come across a situation where I think it's ignorance, or like, because you don't know what you don't know. And I've heard people before when they use spreadsheets and they will say, oh no, I need to keep using this spreadsheet because the data that I input into it comes from multiple different third-party applications or sources. Like, for example, your accounting for Xero or MyOb, and then maybe their manufacturing or like a dispatch or something, that will come from somewhere else. So I guess a lot of people don't realize that with custom apps, it's not a closed system, right? Like I think a lot of people don't realize that you can connect the likes of your Xero and whatever pretty much with a custom app, you can almost connect anything.
Yeah, as long as there is an API, which I would say 90% of software packages have, you can definitely integrate services. And I would agree with that. Yeah. So there are definitely people out there who are like, okay, I have got this set up in a way that I know it's going to pull all this data together for me. But I don't think you can do that because I did that, and what do you know, and everything like that. Absolutely, you'll find probably those kinds of people require a lot of education around the benefits of having software. There's someone who would be better off starting off with a software package, like a pre-product, and then work from there, evolving and learning about what they want, rather than jumping straight into a custom solution. The reason being is because, as I said, it's education. We don't want to be in a position where we're having to constantly educating our client to what might be beneficial to their system when they have full belief that their solution is already great and working. We don't want to break that for them, because, for one thing, if they lose trust in what they've got, it makes it harder for them to communicate what they need to us. because they're like, oh, now I'm not sure if this is like, this is the way to go. So you start off by going, okay, why don't you go to a pre-made product, learn what you like, what you don't like there, and then you can bring that back to us later. Because inevitably, if there's someone like that, they're going to want to, they will eventually want to switch you to something that's more theirs because they're very proud of what they made. And we don't want to break that situation for them. But you're right. It is a bit of ignorance that they don't know what they don't know. They don't know how to. They don't necessarily know how to communicate what they're wanting or how they've done something. It just kind of it just works. And they're like, oh, I had a guy in here 12 months ago. He kind of did it for me. He's gone now, and it's just working, and it just works. And like, I don't want to break it or anything like that. And you have to deal with that kind of in a very soft touch and nurturing kind of way. But there's also a flip side to that where it is arrogance. There are definitely directors and there are people who I couldn't work with because they believed that their solution was so good that they're just like, we just want you to well, I want you to take what I've got, like exactly as it is, and turn that into a system. It's like, well, it's not really going to work that way. We don't take exactly what you have, and then move it into a web application or an app or anything. I have been in a situation where someone had a mobile app and they wanted to create a mobile app that connected directly to their spreadsheets. And I'm like, wow, okay, that's going to be that's a far more difficult approach than you think it is. And like, well, we've got the sheets here, we just need the app. What's the problem? So there is it's an ignorance and an arrogance approach, and those are typically the people that I struggle particularly to work with. And but in saying that, for some that we have, it has worked out quite well. For others, it did not. So it was kind of like a hard lesson. But yeah, definitely there is a line between people who just don't know and don't understand, between the people who think that what they have is superior and there's no way that we can improve it, and they just want us to add on to it, right? And
Nice. As we've been going through this, I feel like there's been a lot of like the context that we're giving is big companies, like we're talking, manufacturing and like all these upper management and mid management and lower echelons. But would it be right to say that it's not just big companies that, I mean, spreadsheets aren't the single sole decider of whether you should go custom or not. But I know at Storia we've built some custom software for companies that are maybe single figures in terms of how many staff they have. So would it be fair to say that it's not just big companies that this applies to, right?
No, absolutely not. It's really for everyone in that range. And again, it's, as I said earlier, it's tackling small things. So you might be a small business and you go, I have a problem. I have a problem with this spreadsheet. I'm using it and it's an issue, but I don't have the funds to attack that right now. Like, I know, and there's some people who have like varying degrees of understanding around how much software is going to cost. Some people have a realistic idea, some people don't. But then you attack it from they go, okay, I know that this is going to cost me $30,000 in order to implement a solution to that will cover the whole thing. So from a small business perspective, you go, okay, I don't have a lot of cash, but I can do something small to start off with. Maybe I can invest 5 to 10 grand and then start with a really small solution that's going to help me fix my immediate problem. And the only reason I'm talking about money is because that is typically, from a small business perspective, that is typically the issue that they deal with first and foremost. It is money, money, money. The next thing is time. So in a bigger organization, you can have a champion. You can have someone who is going to be the project manager for that system rolling out from the client side. So we handle it from the developer's side. And the client needs someone who can be the champion, be the person who understands the system, how it works, and roll it out for everyone. From a small business perspective, you may not have that. If you've got, maybe it's just yourself, or you've got maybe 5 people, 7 people. You find in small business, everyone is really busy. They're going at it hard every single day because they want to grow the business, they want to contribute and everything. So finding that champion becomes significantly harder, right? So someone needs to invest that time into helping making the product work. Otherwise, it's going to fall down flat on its face, and you need that dedicated person. They need to be they need to live and breathe that solution if it's going to be fully functional for whatever time period that is. And I find from a lot of cases, it is that can be one of the biggest failures for small business and implementing custom solutions, is they did not take the time to test it properly. The developer assumes and knows so much. They don't. I'm not in your business, right? I'm not a part of your business. I can learn a lot, but I can't learn everything. I can't be you. I can't be the directors. I can't. I don't know your industry unless it's obviously another development or IT business. But you have to champion that from your side and look at it from, okay, as a customer, or as the client, as someone in my industry utilizing this system, how do I want it to work? Is the way that's been presented to me going to work for us? And you need to spend the time actually revising that and reviewing it. And if you really can't do that, then that's where things can start to fall apart, because assumptions will be made. We're only human, of course. Every development agency would be exactly the same. We'll make certain assumptions around how things are going to work based on from a technical background and how we build businesses, or the standards, build software and what the standards are. But that may not necessarily work for you at that particular moment of your business, and you've got to realize, okay, I need to make that change. I need to spend the time to help implement this on my side. You've got to test thoroughly. You've got to be double checking. You've got to look at it get multiple people in your business to look at it if you have them available. If it's just you, that's easy, right? That's easy enough. You can go in, you can play around with it. You go, cool, yes, from me, for my business, this works fine. Or no, from me, my business, I need to make these changes in order to facilitate it. But yes, to answer the question overall, small business can definitely have this. They've just got to be able to make the investment, and not monetary investment, but the time investment as well, in order to make it a success.
And I guess, part of that would be going back to that metric of how long are you spending on spreadsheets, and, is that going to be better or worse or more or less than going custom?
Yeah, absolutely. It
awesome.
is coming down to value. Yeah.
Well, obviously, we narrowed the scope for this episode in terms of just spreadsheets, but I think I touched on earlier that that's not the only single reason that a company would decide to that it's ready to go custom, whether it be from a SaaS to custom or spreadsheets to custom, but all the more to explore in future episodes. So
absolutely,
I'm happy to leave that one there. Do you have anything else to wrap up?
I would say, like, if there's anyone out there who is considering taking the first step into software, like whether it's buying a SaaS or it's subscribing to a SaaS, or you're building your own thing, spend some time talking to your technical team and then talking to a developer regardless. Just book in a consultation, like 30 minutes or something, not necessarily with us, but with anyone who provide that service that that are considered known and trusted, and look at it from a big picture perspective, and then look at it from the little picture as well. Just start. That's all I can say. Move away from the things that are slowing you down, even if it is a SaaS. I've always my favorite saying when I'm talking to any customer is the 80-20 principle. software as a service typically does 80% of what you want, but it doesn't necessarily do the 20% that you need. And people will get around that. They will compromise. But we need to be able to go, hey, for my business has more value. We need to be able to move away from this and continue to add value to our business, not get stuck behind the black box of software as a service or as spreadsheets. Don't lock yourself in. Make sure that your software is evolving with you, not the other way around. Don't change your business to match the software. Be flexible. If you're going to be flexible, your software needs to be flexible too.
Nice. And the software as a service stuff and the 80/20, we spoke quite a lot about that in our first episode. So for those that are watching and that tickles your interest, definitely go back and watch our first one. But and you mentioned, not necessarily Storia, but any developer. But in saying that, the door's always open at Storia, right? The phone lines are open. The inbox is open.
Absolutely, definitely. Reach out to us. We're more than happy to help. We'll sit down with you. We'll take the time. We can start off with a free consultation. We can provide you with some documentation about what a solution is going to look like, how much it's going to cost, how long it will take to implement, and all of these are around estimates as well. It's necessarily hard coded. It's not hard fixed as how much it will be, but we will work. You can work that out through the discovery process, but we can give you some idea of what is it going to look like from your time and your money, and what investment is required to get you where you need to be for your future.
Nice. That's a good wrap up. Love it.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, James. Thank you to those that are watching. And I reckon we'll see you for episode 3.
That's right. Thank you all. See ya.
See you guys.